And a single point of support, one phone call, not 6. Don't call your server guy, your storage guy, your network guy, or power supply components, or various pieces of software. One phone call to IBM, and all of that is addressed. Now, when we're talking about workloads, data workloads come in many forms, both transactional and analytic. As we begin to look at these, let's describe some of them. So, imagine an e-commerce online website. I'm sure many of you are users of these sites, so you understand that one of the first things you do is transactions have to be conducted there. Somebody goes in, they look at some inventory, they type in a credit card number and some other details, and that's the interaction. At the same time, a marketing manager on that site may want to look at all of the data and do customer analysis to figure out what demographics are buying what, when, and can we do other promotions that might encourage people to do different behaviors on that site. That's reporting and analytics, and it's not small transactions, but something that might look at all of the data. You might also be doing fraud detection on the same site. So fraud is looking at an online transaction as it's happening, but is also perhaps looking at some historical models, and it's got a lot of real-time analysis and a real-time ingest of new data that is going on happening in those systems. So let's go a bit deeper. What's different in these workloads? When we look at the first one on transaction processing, you're not talking about a common data or shared data, but lots of little transactions that have to go hit that shared data. So it's characterized by high volume, high frequency, but each transaction itself might only address a small amount of data. So speed, latency are of the essence in these systems, as is scale. You now look at customer analysis. Well, you're looking at trying to analyze a large volume of data. How do you do that? Massive parallel processing is the answer to go after this. In order to get the speed to look at all of the data is now shared, is spread across a large number of underlying storage elements. But you have to look at all of it. So streaming, I/O speeds, massive amount of read throughput are some of the characteristics of this data, as are the in-database analytics that we leverage in order to provide much greater efficacy for your business users as well as the technologists standing up these systems. Then you move on to fraud detection, or the third kind of system. Well, it's going to share the characteristics between these. There's continuous ingest going on. You have both a short transaction, you're looking for fraud on a particular transaction, but you might also be updating some models at the same time. So you use the term operational analytics to characterize these kinds of systems. So when you look at that, shared data or data that is partitioned, massive parallel processing or small high-frequency transactions, elastic scaling, millions of users versus perhaps tens to hundreds doing the analytics, you can imagine that different systems will need to be built in order to truly get all of the optimization that these systems deserve. So, when you look at the first system that we are announcing, the pure data for transactions, it is optimized exclusively for transactional workloads. No compromises made on the underlying engineering. But in order to address the complexity, you can handle hundreds of databases on a single system. You can scale them up and down. Elasticity in terms of the workload dynamics, up to 30 times, up or down. You also leverage advanced compression from some of the underlying elements, in this case the DB2 database technology, to get 10 times compression on the underlying data, all of it leading to much more effective use of the components within the system, in this case pure data. But you do recovery in seconds in case there's a problem, or the system continues to operate with no hiccup. It supports all of your DB2 applications of today unchanged. In addition, most Oracle database applications can come forward with minimal change. lots of capacity, lots of power, lots of optimization in this first system, the pure data for transactions. When we go on to pure data for analytics, this is the next generation of Netezza technology. You remember I talked about massive parallel processing as well as very effective use of patented NPP hardware that can be used to offer tremendous speed and simplicity. It operates 10 to 100 times faster than many other systems. This generation is offering 20 times more concurrency than prior generations for tactical queries or short queries. The applied simplicity of no tuning, no indices, no storage administration, and an extremely rich set of database analytics, well over 200 different packages and routines that are in there, all of which can leverage the scaling of the underlying NPP technology come to bear. So, pure data for analytics, which is the next generation Netezza technology. And on to the third member of our family here today, the pure data for operational analytics. Again, this one is optimized for these workloads, continual ingest of real-time data, supporting both tactical short queries as well as longer-running models and deep analytics. Handles thousands of concurrent operational queries. It has storage compression, so you can leverage your storage hardware and your IO speeds that much more effectively. In-database analytics for some leading applications, and supports DB2 applications unchanged, so all of those can come over, and most Oracle applications can also come over with the native support for PL/SQL and all the other things. So putting it all together, 3 pure data members against the different workloads that are seen in the data world. Pure data for transactions, optimized for delivering data services on those workloads. Pure data for analytics, optimized against analytic workloads. And pure data for operational analytics for the mixed workload and continual ingest that are there. So, when we begin to put them all together, they also fit together with Pure Flex and Pure Application System. This is about my nerd job. It explains what many of us who have to go put these systems on have to actually deal with. You're standing up on the left side of that chart, for example, an online site. That bunch of business logic might run on Pure Application or Pure Flex. It has to connect to a transactional database. That could be pure data for transactions. And that allows you the scaling to run up and down at millions of users if needed, or perhaps in the middle of the night or some other slow time, you can scale it down. Your marketing team might also be looking at what next best offer may I give people to encourage them to buy more. And they will be taking data feeds off that system, putting them in a pure data for analytics system, and discovering that this kind of offer might indeed result in perhaps a 10 or 20% take-up as opposed to the usual 1 or 2% seen in many marketing offers. So you begin to see how you can put these together. Going on a bit more about these. Aditya talked about patterns. Patterns is a way to both logically represent but also deploy these applications as they come together. In this case, this pattern is talking about a web workload which has application servers and proxies and caching servers and a database. And you might put it all together to go run on a pure application system. And then you need scaling, and that same pattern can then be deployed on a combination of the pure application system and the pure data for transaction system, so you can actually get the mix and match that you get, and also the reuse that many IT shops are looking for. Reuse of the underlying components, whereas the deployment and the tuning is done for you on the fly. Aditya also talked about the Pure System Center, leveraging the tens of thousands of existing applications, the over 190 ISVs and partners who have optimized their solutions for deployment on the Pure family. And all of those capabilities now extend from Pure Flex and Pure Application to embrace the Pure Data family as well. So, we need to put it all together. We talked about Pure Flex, great for your entry cloud, great for standing up all of your things, while getting rid of some of the complexity and the time that is being spent in IT shops today. If you, Forrester Consulting did a study of over 1,000 IT shops. They discovered that 23% of projects often run late because people don't spend the upfront time and investment needed to put these systems together. Allowing us to go, reduce that risk, take away those failed projects is also what goes on in the Pure application system, where it's integrated and comes with all of the software to run platform as a service. And then lastly, the Pure Data family, which has all of the data services for both transactional and analytic workloads. So when you look at it together, integration, so that we can do it, not you. We build in the expertise of patterns, optimization, tuning, all of those things that we look forward to so that we can take away complexity and risk. And the simplified experience, not just at the point of purchase, but throughout the life cycle, so that all of the activities like patching, maintenance, all of those things can be done through a single point of support and a single point of contact, us, as opposed to you struggling with all of those different elements. So, if you put it all together, you can see why we are so excited about these latest entries today, the Pure Data family, joining its two siblings, now becoming the trio that is out there in the marketplace. I will hand it back to Faith. Thank you.
Thank you, Arvind. Before we invite our clients to join Arvind, we'd like your reaction to what you've seen so far. Please pick up your keypads now and tell us which data workload is your top priority for optimization or new deployment. Is it number 1, transaction processing? Number 2, deep analytical processing and reporting. Number 3, real-time analytics. Or you could select number 4 and say all of the above. Please answer now.
Well, work on getting those results to you in just a little while. From that perspective on Pure Data. Joining us from Premier Healthcare Alliance, the leading strategic alliance in U.S. hospitals and healthcare systems, is Todd Wilkes. Todd is Vice President of Enterprise Solution Development and has led the design, the development, and the delivery of big data analytical solutions. Also joining us now from BNSF Railway, the second largest freight railroad network in North America, is Kent Collins. Kent is a database consultant and has a long history of working with IBM and DB2. Arvind, the floor is yours.
Is it good? You didn't say. What do you think?
At least when I was younger, admittedly more years ago than I care to admit,
But that's
the two things that
transparent to
these
you.
young boys are railroads
You need to
and playing doctor, right? And, you know, I had a few feet of track. I think Kent has 37,000 miles of track. So good thing with that, Kent. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also about the NSF Railway and your role within that?
Well, data architect and a solutionist, I guess would be the right way to say it. The railroad is an old industry in North America. BNSF's been around for quite a while, but we're also implementers of technology. And we look at technology for competitive advantages as well as for cost reduction and making our systems and services better.
So as you look inside BNSF, and as you said, it's an old industry, what are some of the data challenges as well as the opportunities that you and your team face every day?
Well, I'd like to say we have one database, but that would be a slight exaggeration. We have hundreds of databases and hundreds of servers. And I guess you define it as churn, right? Constantly having to move them around, constantly having to hand manage them. Even though the utilization on the servers seems to be low, we still have capacity-related issues. We have patching and other concerns that take place. And then the standard provisioning of a new server takes a considerable amount of time and resources to provision one, which is, from the time you actually start the process until the first user click is a considerable amount of time.
Thank you. So that I can see echoes a lot also with what some of our own studies and Forrester, etc. have told us. So Don, tell us a little bit about the Premier Healthcare Alliance and also your role within Premier.
Sure. So Premier, we're a process improvement alliance of more than 2,700 U.S. hospitals and 90,000 other care sites. And we're using collaboration and technology to lead the transformation of healthcare towards coordinated, high-quality, cost-effective care. We also operate a leading healthcare purchasing network with annual savings in excess of $4 billion. Also, maintain the nation's largest clinical, financial, and outcomes-based database with information on 1 in 4 patient discharges in the United States.
I see. So at 2,500 and 9,000, so you probably address a fourth or a third or a half of the U.S. healthcare industry.
We have a good piece, yes.
So you just mentioned saving money, $4 billion for your alliance members. Did analytics play a role in this? And to what extent does Premier rely on the use of these data-intensive analytics in the business?
Certainly. So in order to achieve $4 billion plus in savings, you have to have some analytics there. So analytics is central to everything that we do. We're able to take the purchasing inventory and information from our membership, bring that in and perform both predictive and traditional analytics against that to discover where are best practices as well as where there are opportunities for us. And then in turn we can go and work with the vendors in the supply chain to help reduce costs there for our membership.
So I can certainly see how some of your needs do map against what I would call both the volume and the velocity of all those transactions coming in. And in your case, you're then going through there to go find those nuggets that result in cost savings.
Absolutely.
Now, if I recall, you've been users of the Medina technology, which does power our Pure for analytics system. Has it helped you deliver on its promise of simplicity and fast time to value?
Absolutely. We've seen simplicity in administration. We've seen extremely fast query response times. We've seen fast data loading times, as well as being able to take advantage of in-database analytics, and that's been a great improvement as well. So really across all 4 of those areas, we've seen great improvement on what the promise was in the teasing.
Excellent. So Ken, coming back to you, so you mentioned hundreds of applications, hundreds of databases, churn, scaling issues, even the servers are often underutilized, but then capacity issues hit at peak time, etc. So just listening to that, I mean, you clearly understand the effort and expertise that is required to both build and manage these scalable database clusters. What potential do you see in some of these new offerings and expert integrated systems like Pure Data to help you against those challenges?
Well, we started the process a couple of years ago with PureScale. We have 3 clusters up and running and a 4th one being built today. And we've targeted over 400 databases to be moved to PureScale. And of course, PureScale is at the heart of Pure Data transactions. So in the process of doing that, one of the things we talked about once before was the complexity associated with the platform, right? If those of us that have been around a long time remember MVS data sharing, we remember going from a non-shared environment to a shared environment. We remember that there was a complexity associated with accomplishing that goal. And the same complexity exists in the mid-tier as well. There's a level of expertise that's necessary to properly implement. And the value proposition for Pure Data transactions is to be able to get those servers up and running and get them running effectively and efficiently in a shorter period of time, and to be able to service them with less resources and in an easier manner than we have today. We have to maintain them a certain way. There's like I said, new technology with InfiniBand and other things involved.
So there's a couple of things you said there that kind of struck a chord with me. So you mentioned that when you go for these data sharing or database clusters, there's complexity that you get. And the second thing that strikes me is when you go from your regular use of databases to these more scalable databases, is it transparent, or when you look at both RAWs or alternate technologies, do you have to do actually some work in order to make these applications existing? So could you perhaps give us an example in each of those categories? I mean, what is the kind of complexity that you might face when you go from a single database to a cluster database?
Well, obviously, organizationally, there's some challenge there. Organizationally, in the mid-tier, you're separated. You've got PDAs that are responsible for specific applications, maybe even specific systems that don't have complete knowledge of other systems that are running. So you've got that level of complexity, more from a management perspective. But from a systems perspective, just sheer maintaining those servers and keeping them up and running, it's a no-win situation. I mean, we scale so much and grow so fast that there's no way to keep them patched and up and running as well as we'd like for them to be up and running. From a pure scale perspective, consolidation is in and of itself somewhat of a task that has to be done. We're consolidating well over 300 servers, 300 databases into a pure scale environment. So there's some aspect of that. But when we did the testing with the IBM Black folks that actually ran pure scale with the purpose of trying to make it fail, actually, what we found was that it scaled perfectly. It scaled at 100%, which meant that we didn't have to set capacity levels at specific workloads. We could look at the entire cluster, and that allowed us to size it with relative assurance that we were going to size it properly. And if we didn't, we'd plug in another server.
That's interesting. So when I listen to you, so some of the cloud benefits that Adalia was pointing out, scaling and so forth, I mean, so I think some pride in our engineers and what they did to be able to get those underlying scaling factors. So Todd, when I come back to you, so you mentioned that you do collect the data, you run it, and your data for analytics, but these are systems, and you aggregate that, you collect that, you also do both critical data and supply chain data. And you mentioned about some of the aspects. So was it easy to do all the systems? Because you mentioned both the simplicity as well as some of the database analytics. So maybe you can add a little bit more color to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We can. We dove deep. So let me see if I can do it justice. So on the simplicity side, one of the things that's nice is that you don't have to worry about creating materialized views to get performance. You don't have to worry about indexing. You don't have to worry about putting hints on your SQL statements to make sure the optimizer is going to perform the way you want. From an administration standpoint, that definitely helps out. From a query execution standpoint, you write the SQL, if you're getting the appropriate results, you don't have to spend a lot of time tuning it. It's probably not going to be worth your effort. You're not going to get that return back. It's coming back probably about as fast as it's going to come back. So from a query execution report standpoint, that's what you're looking for. On the data load standpoint, that was an area that we hadn't considered going in, but we discovered as part of our proof of concept, again, to try to break the system, that we had to go and stand up the system. And one of the first things we learned very quickly was how fast we could load data into the appliance. And so rather than doing a traditional ETL process where you extract, transform, do the transformations, and then do the load, and typically the loads match your database schema, we instead do an ELT where we extract, we load the base level data, and then we do the transformation inside the appliance. That way we take advantage of the MPD architecture there, and we can go and immerse that data into our dimensional model, and load times are very fast. And then the same is true in database analytics. So traditionally, whether you have a custom application or a BI application, being able to pull that data back to a mid-tier and do some of that analytics there, that's costly to move that data back and forth. So if you're able to push those analytics and have that run inside the appliance, that's much more efficient and therefore it's going to be much faster.
Great, thanks for that color. So you think about it, right? We talked about analytics and we talked about transactions. And you're going to talk about the usage of transactional systems ability to consolidate hundreds of databases onto a common system, hence reducing complexity, patching, administration, tuning, a lot of those things that while they might appear mundane until you actually try and do it. And then we talked about the simplicity of the appliance approach for analytics and large amounts of data and ingest. Don't certainly talk about them. So please join me in giving a warm hand for sharing the stories and also for looking at our data systems.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now let's move right into our next discussion. We're pleased to have IBM's partners here to provide important perspectives on expert integrated systems and peer data. Joining us today are Kevin Petrosky, Vice President of Global Business Development and Pre-Sales for Infor, and Darren Nelson, Vice President of National Software for Sirius Computer Solutions. Also returning to moderate the discussion is Adalia Sanchez.
Thank you, Faith. Well, I don't know where Armin grew up, but where I grew up, we always dreamed about being a software producer or a solutions provider. That's right. Go figure. Anyway, welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us here today. I'd like to start off a little bit by, if you could introduce your company, what they do, and what solutions you offer for your clients. Okay?
Thank you, Adilo, and on behalf of all of Infor, it's certainly great to be here. Today, the new Infor is a company that's approaching $3 billion in revenue. We have 70,000 customers around the globe that are supported by 12,500 employees and offices in over 140 different countries. Now, of those 70,000 customers, over 19,000 of them, Adilo, are running on the IBM i platform. Now that is more than anybody else out there.
And we have a Puresystems family to support them going forward, too.
That's right, absolutely. One of the key differentiators for Infor, one of the things we're really proud of, is our industry-specific functionality. We focus on 12 key industries as well as the office of the CFO. And what that does for our clients is it allows them to really implement our software faster and with less risk. Okay, that's a fact and a differentiator that we're really proud of. That's a little bit about it for now. The results of that really enables our customers to profitably grow their business. And that's one of our challenges that they have today, so it's one of the things that all allows.
Darren, tell me a little bit about, thank you, Kevin. Darren, tell me a little bit about Sirius and what you do for
Sure. So we're one of IBM's largest VARs in the world. We have about 1,100 employees here in the U.S., about 1.3 billion in revenues. We've been in business since 1980, and after 3 decades of being predominantly an IBM hardware reseller, we invested very heavily in the software solutions area, and actually in a 3-year period have tripled our IBM software business and are now IBM's largest software reseller on the planet. And one of the things I'm most proud of, actually, we finished 2011 after being an SDG reseller for 3 decades. In 2011, the IBM software was our #1 brand. We sold more software than we did power, than we did storage, than we did X. So we're in the middle of a major transformation here at Sirius for us to provide higher value to our customer base.
Great. Kevin, tell me a little bit about, what the whole notion of the Puresystems platform and, the integrated expertise and all the capabilities that were brought into the platform. What the benefits deploying your applications on Puresystems will provide both to you as an application provider and more importantly to your individual clients?
Let me answer those in reverse order.
Okay.
First, what's most important to the clients? Really, it's the value of the patterns, whether that be for the application software or the infrastructure. The ability to reuse those patterns really is a big value to our clients. A second value that is very critical for them is the simplification of their environments. So when we talk to customers out there, and I've talked to a number of them, they are really excited about anything that makes their IT life easier. Now, the first question, why is that important to Infor? Well, because it lets us focus on what our core competency is. And our core competency is really building core applications that improve the customer's business processes. So we don't have to worry about the infrastructure, we don't have to worry about the hardware, the database, the operating system. That's all taken care of.
So it provides, the Puresystems solution provides you not only a benefit for you as a provider, but also in terms of simplifying what you're doing for your clients.
Yes, it sure does.
Darren, as a solution integrator, so how does this whole notion of integrated expertise, better serve you and better serve your clients as they try to solve the right challenges?
Yeah, so for our customers, it's really about the simplicity accelerates time to value. So customers can make their investment and have this thing start making paybacks much, much more quickly than if it was homegrown on a custom environment. It's easier for them to manage. It takes cost out of the resources required to manage the infrastructure for them. And from our perspective, it really expands the aperture of what we're able to provide for our customers. We can very quickly deploy these data type solutions or app type solutions for our customers and truly focus on augmenting their business, leveraging our intellectual property and our capabilities to allow our customers to truly meet or exceed their business objectives.
Good. Now, cloud. Let's talk about cloud. Cloud is a strategic area for both of us. In your company,
yes, it is.
For your clients. So tell us a little bit more about how Puresystems fits in that dimension.
Okay. Sure. Well, cloud is a key strategy for Infor too, so it's great to see Puresystems and the pre-built configurations and things like that that are already there. Today we have over 800 customers using a variety of applications from expense management to asset management to HR and others, with over 500,000 users